Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's first and #1 English fluency guide, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to another video here on YouTube. Today we are going to talk about slang. This is such a big part of the English language, and it's a thing that I often receive questions about because people have maybe trouble understanding slang and also using it in their conversations. So first of all, just a thing about the English language in general, slang is a really important part of English, and it's such an important part of the language for you to study because even in business situations, so situations where you might not think casual language would be used, slang is often used a lot. And so we do have situations in English which is maybe something different from a language like Japanese. So this is the other language I speak fluently. So in a business situation, you wouldn't really be using slang, but in a business situation in English, people do speak more casually and friendly. Again, it's just the different ways that the language is structured or how people speak. But in general, English is a bit more casual language, especially even when you're speaking in business situations. So because it's such an important thing, I wanted to talk about slang in this video. Now, there are actually a lot of topics about slang, specific ways of using it or when you should use it, but I wanted to be very specific to give maybe a broad overview of slang and just help you understand 10 slang words. They're of a specific kind of slang. Again, there's so many different things about slang to learn, and this is why we teach hundreds of these different words in programs like Master English Conversation and the Fluency course, which you can learn more about at EnglishAnyone.com. But just for this video, again, I want to give an overview of slang so you understand just one piece of this and really why people are using slang in the first place. Now, this is probably true for your language as well as it is for English, but there are really basically two reasons why people use slang. The first one is because it saves time. Often people will be just using slang in conversations because the other person understands what they're saying and they don't use the whole word because they don't have to say it. So the word hippopotamus or the word rhinoceros, for example, these are both words where we can shorten them because people understand what we're talking about. So if we point and say, "Oh, look at that hippopotamus over there," people don't typically say that. They say, "Look at that hippo," or "Look at that rhino," in the case of a rhinoceros. Anyway, the first reason why we're doing this is because we're shortening the language because we want to communicate more fluently and faster because people already understand what we're saying. If we're just cutting any word down, then people might not understand what we're saying. But we have the slang develops as a kind of sub-language or a subset of the language within a language like English, where we can use that because, again, it's faster to say. Now, the other and maybe reason that we don't really talk about, but this is kind of the more important reason why we use slang, is because when we use it, it connects us with other people within a certain group. Now, you would typically have the main English language like what you would see on CNN or other business news programs. This is the way people are trained to speak, so almost everyone that speaks English or understands English can understand what they're saying. But slang becomes part of a subgroup of each of these kind of each of these smaller groups within the larger group of English speakers. So you might have some subgroup within a town or at a university or, a sports team or something like that. But people create their own language, their own words, their own ways of speaking so that they connect with each other. And this is just something we do as people where we have that inside group, outside group connection. So we know who's included in this club and who is not. So if you know the language that native speakers are using or within that particular group, like, again, you don't have to think about, everybody, but really, especially if you were living in a English-speaking country or in an English-speaking country, like America, so in the United States or the United Kingdom or Australia, any of these places will have smaller subgroups. So your community, you might have a particular word or phrase for, an object like a dessert or even like something like a soft drink like Coca-Cola. So it might be a Coke in one place or a pop in another or a soda in another place. And so these, again, are just different words that if you can use them, you become part of that group. And so for these two reasons, it's really important for you to use slang. So one of the first things I want to talk about or I guess kind of the main thing I'd like to talk about in this video, is just to really give you some explanations and go over some specific slang words. So we'll go over 10 of these slang words for just one category of slang, and this is where we take a word that's commonly used and we shorten it. So there are, again, as I just mentioned, these kind of small areas, just like you would probably have within your own town, or maybe your own school, or your own even group of friends. You have your own words and phrases that you use that nobody else understands, and that makes you a stronger group. But these 10 things that we'll cover today are used by pretty much every native speaker, so they are the general slang things that anybody would probably understand. So let's get into these. The first one is legit. Legit, and this is the shortened version of legitimate. Legitimate. So legitimate just means real or correct or true, and you can see it's a longer word, legitimate, legitimate. But we're using this when we just want to speak it in a casual and conversational way. We just say legit, legit. There was an old MC Hammer song back in the 90s, I believe, called Too Legit to Quit. So he's like a really cool guy, and it's like the proper or correct way of doing something. So you can say that someone has a legitimate concern about something. That just means they have a real question, or it's a true question, or like this is something we should really look at. But in a casual conversational way, and even in a business setting, you can talk about something being legit. So I don't really think this is a legit way of doing something. Like if you're not following the rules, it's not legit, legit. The next one is fridge. Fridge, and this is short for refrigerator, refrigerator. So everyone has this in their home, a refrigerator, or also known as the ice box. So this is the old term for it, where people actually had a block of ice delivered to their home. Maybe people do that in some places still, but typically people have a regular refrigerator. But most people just casually and conversationally refer to it as the fridge. So can you get me something from the fridge? Open the fridge and grab me a beer. Fridge. Fridge. The next one is props. Props. And this is a kind of tricky one that most people, they do use it, but they don't really understand what it comes from. And this is, well, I guess the best way to say it is like you get the proper respect or the proper maybe recommendation or recognition, that kind of thing. So proper respect or proper recognition just is really just a way of describing, okay, you like did something well, we're going to give you props. So we're going to give you recognition for doing that. But instead of saying something longer like proper recognition, we just say, I'm going to give you props for that. So you can give someone props for doing something that's really a good job. Props, props. The next one is ammo. Ammo. So when you have ammo, this is short for ammunition, and you can describe the physical ammo that you might have for maybe a gun, something like that. So ammo is just talking about the bullets, but it can also mean any kind of resource you have when you're going into war, or if there's like a business disagreement, or you're having a debate with someone. So as an example, if you're having a debate with someone, the ammo you have is all of the different arguments that you might use in that debate. So if you have no arguments, then you have no ammo to use in that debate or that discussion. Ammo. Ammo. The next one, another great business term, is perks. You'll hear this a lot when people are talking about applying for jobs, or if they are offering jobs, and job applicants will say, oh, what are the perks of the job? Or my job has really great perks. Now this is short for the word perquisite. 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 But people will very rarely use the word perquisite. In fact, if you ask people what perks is short for, they probably won't even be able to tell you, because perquisite is just a longer and harder word to say, but really you don't need to use it because perks is much easier and faster. But it just means some kind of benefit or reward. So I really love the perks of my job because I can stand here and record these videos without having to go anywhere special. I don't have to put on a suit or tie. That's one of the perks of my job. Next is abs. So we'll talk about abs, and abs is one of those things because just like any of your other body parts, and abs is your stomach muscles, what people often refer to as a six-pack. If you've got that, it looks like a six-pack of drinks. But if you talk about the different muscle groups, they typically come from Latin. These are longer words like your butt muscles. These are your glutes or your gluteus maximus muscles. And again, that's really long. When people are at the gym, they don't want to talk about, well, I am exercising my gluteus maximus muscles. You just say, I'm working on my butt or whatever. So the same thing for your abs. I believe these are called your abdominal abductors or something. But at least you're just abdominal is that middle section in your body where your belly is. So your abs is just a short way of doing that. So this becomes the shortened version for saying that in a much more casual and conversational way. Next, hood. Hood. The hood is short for the word neighborhood. So you can say, well, in my hood, we do this. And this is, again, something that you can use in a casual conversation, like when I was down in the hood, just while I'm, going out and shopping or something like that. But this is, again, typically something, this word specifically wouldn't be something you would use in a business situation. I mean, you could use it casually with maybe some colleagues if you're speaking with them. At business, but it's maybe if you want to talk about locations or areas in a business situation, but you can use the word hood when you're talking about things in a casual way. Hood. Next is vibe. Vibe. Now, when you want to talk about the vibe of something, this is the feeling of it. And this is short for the word vibration. So if you want to talk about the atmosphere of a room, wow, this party really has some great vibes. I'm enjoying the vibe of this concert. So you can talk about vibe or vibes. It doesn't really matter. But again, it's just talking about the general atmosphere of a particular place. The vibe. So how's the vibe at school? How's the vibe with the meeting? So any kind of situation where you're talking about what's the general mood or atmosphere of that thing. Vibe. Vibe. Next is spec. Spec. Spec is short for specification. Specification. So again, this is one of those longer words that, especially even in business terms, if you're working in a factory or you devise maybe some kind of software or even just any kind of hardware or other technology like a machine, you can say, what are the specs of this thing as opposed to the specifications? Or you can say this machine is built within some kind of specification or some kind of spec. So again, it's just a way of expressing this longer thing that most people understand in a shorter way. Spec. Spec. And the final one is whiz. Whiz. Now, a whiz is someone just like a wizard, which is what this is short for. And you can spell this as W-I-Z or W-H-I-Z, but it just refers to someone who is very smart. So, this person is, he's great with computers. He is a computer whiz, or he's a whiz with numbers. So this is a really smart person or someone that understands math very well. A whiz. Well, that's all of these. And again, this is just one part of slang. There are different things about it, but really this is why we use slang. So again, the reason to study slang, the reason it's such an important thing and why we teach it and teach so many slang words and expressions in the phrasal, in the fluency course and Master English Conversation is because, again, it's used in casual and professional situations. So this is something you really should practice, and you can probably find lots of videos right here on YouTube that help you understand lots of slang expressions as well. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more about this, if you have any questions about slang specifically or other things maybe related to this, do let us know in the comments section down below. Also, I'm happy to, again, if you want to like this video and subscribe to the channel, that will help us out because we can reach even more people. So do tell maybe, 10, 15, 20, 200, 2,000 people about this video. And finally, the last and most important piece is if you'd like to learn more things like slang and understand vocabulary, especially things like phrasal verbs and idioms, these are all conversational vocabulary in addition to slang that are really important for both casual and professional situations. If you'd like to learn more about these, click on the link in this video or on the link in the description below this video to take our free English fluency quiz. And if your problem is vocabulary, maybe you have trouble expressing yourself naturally when you speak, we can tell you exactly what to do to build a huge vocabulary of conversational English quickly. Well, that's it for this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.